Welcome back to Prime Your Midlife. And today I'm going to shock you with somebody that had one of those moments in his life that literally changed the way that he approached his future. Stephen Janus, welcome to our Zoom screen today. How the devil are you today?
I'm very well, Chris. Thank you very much. Appreciate the chat today.
Well, anybody that's listening, you're not quite from where I am in terms of the north of the country. You're way north of me. Where do we find you today, Stephen?
Well, today I'm in Inverness. I'm actually in the boardroom of the Drumossie Hotel. I've been at a business show today, but I'm based in Aberdeen. So, yes, we're reasonably far up the country.
And you were doing something today that was also the moment that changed you. Is that right?
Yeah, I work with a company called Synergy Worldwide, and it all came from my scare. And so I was presenting, I was speaking today as well as exhibiting at the show today in Inverness. It's one of 20 shows I'm booked in to do this year. So this is a local show for me, which is, I say local, but still 2.5 hours from home. So, but beautiful part of the world and a really responsive crowd today. So it's been a very enjoyable one today.
Nice. Okay. Well, let's take the audience back then to what, 8 years ago, I think you said it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And before that moment, you were fairly, what I would call bulletproof, thinking that everything's fine and dandy and the world's your oyster. But tell us about something that happened that day, where you were, how you felt, and most importantly, what happened.
Yeah, absolutely. So about 8 years ago, I was hosting a dinner for Aberdeen Football Club in the Treetops Hotel in Aberdeen. And I'm quite a cheeky boy on stage. I get away with quite a lot. But was very remiss of myself. I'd started kind of letting myself go health-wise. I've always fought with my weight all through life. I've always yo-yoed. I've always been able to lose weight, but it's always gone back on. And I've never been in control. But I've always been very self-conscious because when you're on stage, the camera always puts on pounds, and when you've already got pounds on top of pounds does not. And for the younger listeners, it's kilos, and I know what you mean, but I'm an old guy, so and it just was. I got to that stage where I was very unhappy, and I remember getting ready of that night, and it was a big crowd, 450, and I couldn't get my top button fastened, and I would always buy TM Lewin shirts, and I was going, they're making these shirts smaller, and I was just in denial. And I had a daytime business, and I was busy with that, so I'm running about, and thinking you're bulletproof, thinking you're absolutely fine, not doing any exercise. I'd stopped playing five-a-sides, played golf maybe once or twice a month, but would get really tired playing golf, and just be out of puff, and then I would think, well, because I play on quite a hilly golf course, I'm just getting to that middle-aged kind of time in my life where I'm not looking up, and you almost kind of think, well, this is what happens when you get older. But that night on stage, I remember, and I was working with a wonderful man called Robbie Glenn, who is one of the finest after-dinner speakers that I've had the privilege to work with. And he would always call me Mr. Innes, and it was very formal, but it was not formal, if you know what I mean. And I remember him looking to me and he said, Mr. Innes, you're not looking very well. And I was like, and I went, no, I'm not feeling great. And I remember standing up to the room, and it's the only time it's ever happened that I stood up to the room and the room was literally spinning in front of me. And I'm guzzling away at the water. I never drink alcohol when I'm working. And I'm guzzling water, and my mouth was still dry. And I remember looking at two tables in front of me. One was an insolvency practitioner, and one was the Bank of Scotland. So they're nice, easy targets for the MC to have a wee go at. And I'm looking at those guys and I'm thinking, if I keel over here, they'll probably just think I'm up to no good. It's anything for a round of applause. But genuinely, I thought, I'm in trouble here. Now, I got through my night purely on automatic pilot. Wouldn't have been my best performance by any matter, but it gave me a massive scare, and I kind of thought I needed to do something. I needed to do something about it. I needed to take a bit of responsibility. And I remember looking in the hotel mirror in the morning, and I was staying in the hotel, and I was actually feeling sorry for myself.
Can we just pause a minute if we could? I'm just curious
Yeah.
as to when you said you had that moment on stage and you felt you might have fallen over. Tell us a bit more about, did you think you were having a heart attack? Did you think you were going to pass out? What were the real feelings that were hitting you as you're facing into 450 people?
Yeah, I mean, the thing, I did think it was heart attack, and because I did feel my chest was tight. My head was I was really lightheaded, but the biggest thing for me, my mouth was so dry. So when you're speaking, that's not a good feeling. And I'm normally able to hold a room and command a room without any difficulty. And you're always nervous before a speaking engagement anyway. So I had a mix of that. And I remember looking out and I'm thinking, I remember talking to myself. I remember saying, you're in trouble here. And I do remember looking left and right. And at the treetops was always an elevated stage. And I'm looking left and right, thinking, where am I going here? And I got the preamble started. And I remember literally guzzling water. And I'm like, and I did say to Robbie, I says, I'm in trouble here. And he says, you're not looking great. And I was great. I was absolutely great. But, you know, the ridiculous thing is the show must go on. And I kind of rallied a little bit and I got through my night, but I would have been maybe 40–50% of what I'm capable of doing. Okay. There was a few people noticed it on the night, that close friends of mine, but, you know, I was the jovial fat guy who's the MC, that, you know, and in with myself, I was not happy where I was.
Okay.
You know, very self-conscious.
I'm finding it difficult to see the vision of the jovial fat guy, because everybody can see, or if you're on the podcast, this isn't what we're seeing. It's not, okay, maybe joviality is still there, but it's definitely not that shape that's looking back at me. All right, so had that moment, you got through it, show must go on, as you said. And then you had this self-realization process the next morning of reflecting and thinking. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I remember I was shaving in the morning, and my dad, who unfortunately passed away about 18 months ago, had just been diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's. And I remember looking and thinking, is this where I'm going? You know, and I didn't know enough about that at the time. And I remember looking in the mirror, and I was shaving, and I remember looking at myself, and I genuinely was feeling sorry for myself. And then I thought, you need to do something here. You need to take responsibility. And I had, many years previous, had a healthcare franchise with a company called Best of Health, and was the #1 franchisee in the UK. But unfortunately, we had our financial director was slightly liberal with the finances, and had been siphoning money the whole time that we were building the business. And I had the UK's top franchise. I then bought the Italian franchise, and then I was living in The Hague and running back and forth. And so life was great. But you know what? The thing that I look back now, my gut feeling, and it's ironic that the company I'm promoting now talks about gut health. My gut was telling me there's something wasn't right, but I didn't listen to my gut. And I knew something wasn't right with that company. And then it turned out a few months down the line, we were in Italy, and I'm sitting in the hotel there, and the office in The Hague, and we found out we'd run out of money. And I thought, we can't have run out of money. We're selling franchises, we've got good trading figures and stuff, but he'd been skimming and stealing. So when I came back from Europe, I came back literally with nothing. So I had lost a lot of my confidence. And when you're a public speaker, confidence is something that's fairly crucial to you. So I had let myself go from a health point of view, and got lazy and started eating stuff that I wouldn't normally eat, and would come home from a dinner, and my standard come down after a dinner, because you're always hyper and you're also get the adrenaline going, would be a big packet of 150 gram salt and vinegar crisps and about 12 dark chocolate digestives.
So I'm interested, I'm hearing some signals here that you had that gut instinct with that financial director, the moment when your shirt was a little bit tight going up the hills, and you're a little bit out of puff, and lots of signals suggesting that something's not quite right here. What was it about Stephen back then that just felt that you could carry on regardless and push through without really seeing the clarity of those messages?
You know, it's probably a little bit of probably part of me was thinking, you're just going to be a fat guy. That's what you're meant to be. And this is the card that you've been dealt with. And there's some people that are thin, some people that are fat. And I just, and I've never been a person that would go to the gym, would never enjoy going to the gym. And I just thought, you know what, I don't have the discipline.
And did you think
be
that was
going to
part
do
of
that.
almost your uniform, and you would play to that on stage? No.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I used to get dressed up in there's an events company who first started me professionally. And some of the outfits they've had me wearing, it's just ridiculous. And there's one picture that I use, and I'm in a bright white suit, and I was like a 70s pimp. And I still put that suit on occasionally at home when I think I'm fat, because psychologically, would you believe, I still think I look fat. And it's very interesting. And when you speak to people that have always fought with their weight, that's something that never really goes away. So psychologically, there's some nights I'll go, oh, I'm feeling fat, and I'll go put that suit on, and I'll go, no, you're not. Don't be silly. So the mind's a really, really, such a complex thing, and then I kind of given up, not given up as an individual, but sort of given up to get that level of what I need to do to get to that stage. And it wasn't until I had my scare, and the scare, I was lucky to have the scare, because there's a lot of people have the scare and are not able to do anything about it, and it's too late for them. So, and I think with my dad being diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's at the same time, it was a case of stop feeling sorry for yourself. You know more about supplementation and doing things about getting yourself fitter than the majority of people. So you need to just dust yourself down and take some action and take some responsibility with what you're doing yourself. So there's a number of times, and it was like almost like it was a very, very important time in my existence, to be fair.
You talked about feeling sorry for yourself, looking back in the mirror, your head in your hands kind of stuff. How long did that last for you? And how did you talk yourself out of that sort of victim mentality, and then thinking, no, Stephen, you really need to take this by the throat and crack on?
Do you know, it's if I can be brutally honest, it's only in the last few years that has disappeared from me. There's always been almost imposter syndrome, where I felt that I'm not. I mean, I was bullied at school. And I only stopped being bullied at school when I used my humour. And then the minute I used my humour, that was like a trigger that they wouldn't bully me anymore. Now, I remember when, and this is where synergy comes in. So I'd been approached by a good friend of mine in County Durham about synergy. I didn't want to know. I genuinely was not interested in the slightest. And I got introduced to a gentleman called Will Martin. Now, Will Martin was Synergy's top distributor in Europe, and he was building very aggressively, but in a nice way. And I remember him coming on, and I was so not in the looking zone. I just wanted some products. I just wanted to make a change on what I was doing. Now, what I didn't know was he was dying with cancer. And when he passed away, and I'm very much a creature of habit, I sit in the same coffee shop, I sit in the same chair of an afternoon, and I'll catch up with my calls and I'll do my bits and pieces. And my pal Ian phoned me, and he said, Will has passed away. And I was like, right, okay. I said, now, I spoke to him about maybe about a month previous, and he said to me, I don't have long here. And I genuinely thought he didn't have long to speak to me. But it turns out, unfortunately, he didn't have long at all. So I'm not a religious person, but I'm very spiritual. And I said to Ian, what's your plans? What are you thinking of doing? And I was still, carrying the weight. I was still not sorting myself out. But I didn't feel I had anything in me to go again, because I had lost a lot of my confidence and a lot of my self-esteem. Gone from being relatively successful to being, having no money and feeling embarrassed about having no money. And then I remember looking at my diary, and he said, I'm going out to Barcelona to Synergy's European conference. And I remember looking at my diary, and I had a gig, a free weekend, a gig. And I said to him, it's last weekend in September. And Ian said to me on the phone, he says, "How do you know that?" And I said, "Well, it's the only weekend I've got free." And he said, "Don't start your spooky nonsense with me." And he said, "But that is the weekend." And I literally went and booked flights to Barcelona and went out. And I was so self-conscious in Barcelona about wearing a linen jacket, because I had the linen jacket on because I was thinking the linen jacket made me look thin.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember getting to Barcelona and it was roasting. It was absolutely just sweltering. But I'm walking with this linen jacket on, thinking that it made me look thin.
Yeah.
So there's all this stuff going on in my head. And I remember getting to the venue and there was all these people looking really healthy and looking very successful. And I remember I wanted to scuttle up the back of the venue because I didn't feel I deserved to be down the front.
Mm.
Didn't feel I needed to be in amongst the movers and shakers, and didn't feel I actually should be there. So there's a lot of stuff, and I fought with a lot of stuff in my head about where I am, what I'm doing. So it's been quite a journey.
Well,
But
I can hear that. Was there a certain part of you that felt almost like you were a fraud and that you were in the wrong place in the wrong clothes, but there was something calling you to want to be curious about where you were going?
yeah, I mean, I felt that I didn't deserve to be there. And I remember going into one of the hotels in Amsterdam. It was a lovely, and then I remember strange walking in through the door, and I thought, I wonder if they know I've got no money. And it's a strange thing to think. But, I had money to survive, but not, and it was one of these things. And I thought, no, I'm better than this. I just need to dust myself down. Now, at that moment, I did not know if Synergy was going to be for me. But over the next 2 days, I sat at the auditorium and I took notes and loads of notes. And I'm going, right, okay, that's checklist, 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 checklist. And then Dan Higginson, Synergy's founder, came on stage and delivered for me the finest eulogy that I've ever heard. And I was like, this guy's for real. This is from the heart. There's no razzmatazz here. There's no hype. There's nothing. It's just straight from the heart. And I thought, okay. And I remember Ian was sitting to my left as Dan finished, and there was hardly a dry eye in the auditorium. There must have been about 1,100 people there. And Ian turned to him, and if you ever meet him, he's a 6'4" Geordie. He's got the least amount of emotional. He doesn't show his emotion at all. Typical, guy for the Northeast. The tears are rolling down his face, and he said, "I'm going to go and finish this off." And I just put my hand out and shook his hand, and I get goosebumps every time I tell the story. And I said, "Okay, let's do it." And that was me deciding then, right, I'm going to go and do something. Now, I didn't know where it would take me. I just thought I needed to do something. I needed to start sorting myself out health-wise,
So, I'm fascinated. We'll talk about Synergy a little bit soon in terms of the benefits that it can give an individual. But I'm still interested in this self-imposed identity you had of yourself, and even walking into a hotel thinking that I shouldn't be here because I haven't got money. You must have then done some internal soul searching and talk to yourself to get rid of that self-belief, but also start to put some steps in place to not be what you were. And seeing you now, talk about some of the ways that you really challenge yourself to take your health seriously. You must have done lots of things in little ways to make that shift forward.
Yeah, there's been a huge amount of stuff, and it's when I'm speaking about now that I think, I surround myself only with positive people now, and I've cut away quite a few people, much to their surprise, and I really embrace the gift that I've been bestowed upon myself with my speaking career, and very humble and grateful that I've got that. Now, for a guy that was brought up, was very shy and very quiet and was bullied, when I get a microphone in my hand and I step on a stage, it's me, I'm at home. And I can't think of anything better. Like even today, I was doing a little bit, and it's just like I come alive. I'm like, and then people are coming up going, "Oh, that was really good, really enjoyed that." great humor, and it's like I've come a long, long way. And somebody who was really, really crucial within that development was a guy called Bert Dukes, and Bert was, I hated Bert when I met him, but he was almost like a mentor to me. Well, not almost, but he was a mentor to me, and really kind of helped and shaped and could see the potential within me that I couldn't see the potential. And it was when I look back now, and unfortunately Bert passed away a couple of years ago. And Bert was always talking about that too many people go to the grave with the song still in me.
Mm.
And he would always say at a presentation, he would say, because I did a telecoms network marketing deal with him, and I realized that, wait a minute, there's much more to life than just working 9 to 5. And I remember when I left my job at the age of 30, I didn't have anything else to go to, but I had built a nice residual income. And it was almost like somebody opening the door and looking out. And it's bizarre. I'm sitting here overlooking the Keswick Bridge, and I'm looking across the Black Hill. And it's stunning. There's a big vista. And you look out there, the world's a great place. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough people actually step outside their comfort zone. So I've done a huge amount of personal development on myself. I am very comfortable with me now, whereas I always felt I had to fit in with other people.
Mm.
So part of my journey has been very much a case of, no, go with what feels right. And you know what? I actually don't mind sitting in a coffee shop on my own, having a coffee, because I am comfortable with who I am now. And I actually like me. And I hope that doesn't sound big-headed or anything like that, but that's...
No, I think if you can't love yourself from within, then you're literally destined for failure, because if you can't wake up and be happy with the person that's staring back at you, well, nobody else is going to give you that affirmation. Just a couple of things I want to go back to, and I'd love to hear more about your steps. Do you think there was a correlation between speaking on stage and then giving yourself permission to meet that high with a food hit? Because I sometimes, I'll go off from speaking sometimes, and I'm on such a high. I'm looking for sugar, I'm looking for energy, I'm looking for ways to sort of meet that adrenaline rush. Was that something that happened for you or not?
No, it was more, I would come home from a dinner, and I was never one to go drinking after an event. And I mean, I stopped drinking 3 years ago, and I didn't drink much up until that. I did all my drinking when I was in my 20s, and I didn't like how I felt for 2 or 3 days after it. But you just get in that cycle. I used to run an amateur football team, and it was just part and parcel of the course. But I always felt, you know what, I could quite easily step out of this, but I didn't have the confidence within myself to do that. Whereas now I feel no need at all for alcohol for no other reason than I just don't see an upside of it for me at the moment. Now, I'm not saying I'll never have a glass of wine again. Just at the moment, it doesn't fit for me.
Yeah.
But it was, it's just getting that little things that you go, do you know what really works for me? And the personal development, I used to embrace, and I still do, embrace the personal development of, do you know what, I can be better. I can make a go of myself. And my dad, and I had quite a tough relationship with my dad. He had his dad wasn't particularly good to him, and his dad before that wasn't particularly good to his dad. So there was a whole, and I know I've broken the cycle, and I was fortunate enough to get a moment of clarity with my dad just before he passed away, and we kind of made amends and stuff like that. But there was typical northeast of Scotland, guys don't show emotions, and it was like almost perceived as a weakness to ask for help, and I did put my hand up and say, I need to do something different here, and I have run a very different path from a lot of my friends, but I'm really rich with the people that I've got in my network, the people that I surround myself with, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. And because I like me now and what I'm doing, and I feel I've got a lot of self-worth, the people that are coming into my world now, the abundance is just colossal, but people, you're attracted to good people, and see if there's somebody negative, I'm sorry, I just can't have them in my world.
Yeah.
Because it is incredibly short, the time that we've got. And I said at a talk a couple of weeks ago, I'm 55, I've lived more than I've got left. I'm not choosing to spend any time with anyone that doesn't work in with how I'm, and that's not being arrogant. That's just being just a choice.
Yeah, you used a couple of words there, which was rich and abundance, and a lot of people will associate those two words with, with money. And in fact, you yourself talked about that feeling you had of almost being fraudulent going into that hotel in Barcelona. When did you come to terms with the fact that richness isn't defined by wealth, but richness can be defined by other things?
It's probably what's happened when I've not expected it. It's just become part and parcel, and that's one of the things when I joined Synergy. There are so much personal development that goes on within that organisation, and I'm not just saying this, but I think that for me it's one of the finest companies, and some of the leadership within the company are absolutely phenomenal, and it teaches you about Synergy's thing is about leave a legacy. And that's what I'm all about. And it's about having the abundance of life. It's having the abundance of. I mean, I listen to a guy called Jim Rohn, and Jim Rohn's my favourite go-to. And he's a farmer's son from Idaho, and he always talks about the seasons, and that resonates with me all the time. You need to, you need to be sowing in springtime. You need to be in allowing yourself to flourish and reaping the harvest, and then you need to go into that fallow period in the wintertime, and then you go again. And it's like life, it's cyclical, and there's times where it's not been easy. And there's also times where there is, like just now, I'm in a position where abundance is around me and things are happening. But you know what? It's not been an overnight success. But
Yeah.
there's more people come at the table now, and you're meeting more people. And I feel I've got more worth about what I'm about than I've ever felt. So, and when I talk about richness and I talk about abundance, money doesn't even enter my thought process, and it's amazing that and I remember Bert saying to me once, he says, you'll make a fortune when you stop chasing money. And it sounds daft, but it's so true. If you find, and I genuinely feel with the two things that I do in my life, with my Synergy business and with my speaking, I still pinch myself the first night I got paid to speak on stage, and now I command good money, but I'm still very humble and very grateful of getting the opportunity. But I mean, I had 2 gigs at the weekend where I had such a good time,
Yeah,
and such a good belly laugh. And I'm looking at people beaming back at me, and I'm going, this is what I do. I love this.
okay, so you've gone obviously on a journey over the last 8 years, but if we were to roll back 2 years before that and maybe go 10 years from this point, and somebody else is listening, looking forward 10 years in the future, with the benefit of hindsight, Stephen, what would you have been telling yourself 10 years ago that you now know that you have applied, but you could have applied quicker to somebody that might be listening?
Take nothing for granted. That's the biggest thing. The understanding of mortality, I've got a bigger understanding of that than ever before. I've lost people that I wouldn't have thought I would have lost in my world. So I would be saying to myself 10 years ago, give yourself a chance. And I'm not an angel by any matter of, I was out for dinner last night, and I ate what I wanted to eat. It's not a case of, I'm not allowed this, I'm not allowed that. But I would be saying to myself, do a bit more exercise. I would have played more golf. I'd be saying to myself, stop being too busy, go and play more golf, because I'd always feel guilty about taking 3 or 4 hours out to play golf because I'm self-employed. I need to be working. I need to be making money. No. You need to get that life balance and get that balance in your life. And I would be kicking my own self. I'd be kicking my tail up and down the golf club car park, going, take time out, get a balance, work smarter. And it's only now, and I'm running out of time at 55 that I am working smart. I am working, and I say to people, I've got a lifestyle business. And I genuinely feel that I have got a lifestyle business. And people are now sick, fed up with the grind of the 9 to 5, and are now looking and going, is there a better way?
Sure.
And that's the thing I would be saying. I'd be doing more exercise, Now, my exercise is golf. I got myself to single figures last year for the first time in my life. And my coach gave me a hard time because he said, you should have done this years ago, and you know you can go a lot lower. So instead of going in and getting a pat in the back, he's pressing all the buttons that I know that works for me, because I'm going, right, I'm going to show you, you know. So personal development for me is, I would be saying to myself 10 years ago, read more books, spend less time with negative people, and just have the confidence and the within yourself to say, I'm sorry, thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah. I love those messages, and that you take nothing for granted. I definitely live that value every morning. I wake up, I think, oh, still here. Yep. Happy days.
Absolutely.
It would be wrong of me not to talk about the synergy and the supplements business, because it seems to be everybody's got a solution for something that's in a bottle or a pill or a liquid that's going to be the new solution to everything that's going to be perfect in the world. How does synergy challenge that doctrine of everything's going to be a magic pill and we're going to fix your life forever?
Yeah. And I was definitely of that opinion in my early years, and I was thinking, so I always say to people, look, whether you take synergy products or whether you take anything else, you need to know that it works. And the only way you know it works is if you take it for a prolonged period of time, give it that chance to. But there is absolutely a complete waste of time and effort if you're not going to change habits. And I always say to people, you need to change habits. You need to be doing more exercise. You need to be looking at what you're eating, and you need to supplement. The word in itself, supplement. Now, I'm a farmer's son, and my dad would always say to me, oh, why are you taking those supplements? And I'd point out to the field, and I'd say to my dad, what have you got in the field there? Oh, minerals. He says, the soil's mineral deficient. Because we've over-farmed, and we're not getting the foods forced, and we're not eating, this last week, while we've not been, there's a lack of produce in the supermarket shelves. But we're now eating food all year round, where we should be, if it was correct, we should be eating food seasonally. So there's no seasonality with food anymore. You're getting strawberries 12 months of the year, whereas before you used to get strawberries for a couple of months a year, and you would enjoy them because they were real and you would taste them. We get them all year round, and there's no taste to these things. So, lost my train of thought a little bit there, but it's just, you just get to the stage where you go, well, I've actually lost my train of thought. So what were you?
Well, we were talking about, why do we supplement, and how do we actually this is even worth doing? And I guess that's my point still, is that you've really articulated the fact that we're over farming, we're over consuming, we're consuming the wrong things at the wrong time of year. But I'm thinking of companies like, I could talk about a brown liquid that's fizzy without naming the brand, and we've been almost suckered into thinking that this is something that's low calorie, it's artificial sweetener, and therefore it's good for us because it's aligned to things like the Olympics. But the sugar aspect of overconsumption of sugar is creating a massive, I've heard, tidal wave of problems through diabetes and other things. Why is it that you think that supplementation isn't going to fall to the same cry of wrongness in 5 years' time?
Yeah, for me, there is, unfortunately, the society, and I believe this is just my opinion, but society we're in here is too reliant on pharmaceuticals. The pharmaceutical companies make fortunes out of us being ill. They don't want to make us better. Now, there are lots of companies in the supplementation market that are absolutely top-notch and are ethical and do things correctly, but there are also a lot of them out there that the quality of product is not particularly great. Now, I always, somebody says to me, oh, how does Synergy compare with other companies? Now, I'll never knock any other companies by name, but I know that Synergy manufacture their own products. They source, it's all plant-based, and they source from the plant-growing regions of the world. Now, 85% of our competitors do not manufacture. We've got our own in-house training facility. We've got 33 scientists and doctors working, and it's very much based on science. Now, Synergy spend no money on advertising. They spend no money on endorsing celebrity football players or celebrity athletes. If an athlete wants to use our products, they pay for the products. And what I'm really proud of, I say to people, take it and try it for 90 days. And I've not in 8 years where a single person has come back to me and said, I would like my money back. I don't feel a difference. But what I say to people is this should be something on a long-term basis. You know, our flagship product is Pro-arginine, which is an L-arginine, which the guys that discovered L-arginine and what it does for your system got the Nobel Prize for Science back in 1998. Now, sadly, that's not out in public domain, but if somebody goes and does their homework and research, they'll then go, right, that is the case. Now, we've got products that are approved for Olympic level athletes on the cologne list. Again, the majority of people don't know what the cologne list is. Now, sadly, doctors get about 8 hours nutritional training the whole time they're learning to be a doctor.
Mm.
Now, if that was a mechanic, you would not be jumping in your car if your mechanic was only getting 8 hours training to be, to be running a car. So for me, I always talk about our biggest product is education. And it's always deferred business because people then will look at it and go, okay, right, well, he's fairly confident with what he's talking about, and I always say to people, this is not a quick fix. In an ideal world, we would not need supplementation. But unfortunately, because of the depletion of the soils and the minerals in the soil and the over farming and force feeding of fruit and veg, there is a requirement for it. So if you're going to spend money on it, make sure you're getting the very highest grade, value products that you can. And unfortunately, there are some not so good people in the market that are taking advantage of people that are desperate for a quick fix and are just looking for something off the shelf that they think they're going to take that they don't have to do any work about it.
Well,
it's very,
that's
very
the
wrong.
bit that I'm sort of, really wanting to understand, because there are people that marketeers will prey on because they know what their pain points are, and therefore they can give them the short-term fix to something that actually is a lifestyle change or is a habit change that they have to address the root cause, as opposed to trying to paper over the cracks with the latest pill, liquid, whatever it might be. So how do you hold court to the recommendation for the right supplement versus making revenue for synergy?
Yeah, I mean, good point, because we've got quite a big product range of in the list, and I always like to start customers on our first product, Pro-arginine, or we've got a gut health program, and we start them on one of the two.
But how do we know that even those two? I'm just putting it back at you. How do we know that those two pieces of supplementation are relevant for the individual that's going to take it?
So we take everyone through a lifestyle analysis. We take them through a questionnaire. But if we just talk about Pro-arginine accounts for about 70% of our sales. I'm 55 now. My body is only producing 35% of the nitric oxide that it actually requires. The 20-year-old Stephen, his body was producing 100% of the nitric oxide, so I didn't need it. And I thought I was bulletproof. So the older you get, your body starts to require more and more nitric oxide in your system, and it flushes out the fatty deposit in the plaque. So everyone would notice a difference if they were on Pro-arginine. Now, what I say to people all the time, take Pro-arginine for a minimum of a 90-day period. We will do a questionnaire at the end of that 90 days, and let's assess where you are. How do you feel? Are you sleeping better? Are you going through these things? Now, interestingly, we get some people that are going, you know what, I feel great, but I'm not taking any more product. And I'm like, yeah, great, fine. But then they go into that sort of dark hole for a 4 weeks or 6 weeks and go, I just gone back to feeling what I was before. And then they go, do you know what? I just need to be on it on an ongoing basis. Now, the thing that I never have to chase customers to reorder. And that's something that's really crucial, because if that was the case, I just wouldn't be in the game, because it's just, for me, I'm not chasing people just for the sake of a sale. But we've got very much a process. And if somebody then gets results on our flagship product, if they want to add anything else within the range, do you know what? They then have got a belief that you're actually on side with them. I mean, I had a customer last week who literally, businessman in Aberdeen, wanted to give me literally a blank check, tell me what I need. And I went, let's start you on pro-arginine. And he went, I'm not giving, and he actually said to me, I'm not giving you enough money. And I laughed at him and I went, this is what the deal is. This is what you should be on. We'll assess it after 90 days and see where you are. Now, by doing it that way, I'm being true to how I feel about it. I'm giving him duty of care. And you know what? At the end of the day, he'll get results. He'll be telling loads of people.
Yeah.
So rather than taking £400 or £500 off him, that he would be, yeah, that's fine, no problem. Not the right thing to do. Now, there's other companies out there that might do that. It's not how I work.
All right. So I remember you talking about how you got yourself fixed, and getting yourself away from negative people was a key part of that, and doing more exercise, take nothing for granted. How did the weight come off, though? Because obviously that was part of your old self. And looking at you now, anybody who's on the podcast, it's clear that we're looking at an individual who's 55 and is looking trim. What was that journey like? How did that happen?
It's interesting. The longer you're on pro-arginine, your taste buds definitely change. So you then start craving for less processed food. You are then looking for better quality food. So then in turn, you're eating less food because you just no longer get the taste for the cheap processed. I mean, if I went in for a coffee, I went in Inverness yesterday, and I went into Costa at the retail park, and I went and ordered a double espresso, and I looked at the counter, and it's all the pastries and all the stuff, and I looked at that, and I would just go, it's just dead food. It just looks, and I'm thinking that's not going to give me anything at all. And I if I take anything with my coffee, and I like my double espresso, and I had a little bit of dark chocolate with it. So my eating habits have changed massively. Out for dinner last night, and I had a burger. So I had the base of the bun, but I didn't have the top of the bun. I had the burger, I had the salad, and I ate half my chips.
But it's interesting. You said earlier you eat what you want, but even by just going through your day yesterday, you're making choices that are making sure that what you are eating, from my perhaps uneducated position, are fulfilling your destiny. So I know you said you eat what you want when you want, but actually you're choosing to eat differently. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely. And I make much better choices now. You know, I cook, and I just eat. You know, I eat proper food now, whereas no convenience, you know, or very little convenience. And actually my body will reject if I take something. I mean, there's sometimes if I'm doing match day hospitality at some of the football teams, and there's always a tray of sausage rolls pulled out at half time. And I look at them and I'm thinking, there must be about 12% meat in those. The rest just pastry.
Yeah.
And I physically can't eat them anymore.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I would have grazed on those things. You're not hungry, but you'll eat them, and you'll eat them, and you'll eat them. And then you kick in about an hour later, you kick in with heartburn, you know, and you just go, I'm not really enjoying that.
So are you connecting the decision to the longevity of where you want your life to go on the basis that you're putting the two ends of the story together?
Yeah, I probably do it subliminally now. It's just, I'm just in a way of, you know what, I know what works for me now. I know what my body enjoys eating. You know, there's last night we had calamari to start with, so I enjoyed that. And then I had the burger with the base of the burger bun, didn't have the top bit of the bun, the biggest bit. And then one of the guys with us ordered dessert. And I'm like, no thanks. And he went, you don't want dessert? And I went, no, I'm fine. That was me. I would have had dessert whether I was hungry or not. You know. So it's just, you're just making better decisions, because I'm very aware that, and I said this in a talk not long ago, that I've probably got, well, I've got 5 more Christmases till I'm 60.
Yeah.
And that scares the living daylights out of me.
But it's curious that it's that stigmatism associated with your decisions. I know I was away for a 5-day conference recently, and one of the delegates said to me by the Thursday, goodness me, you really are disciplined, aren't you? Because he watched, I didn't take any of the biscuits, I didn't take any of the pastries, I didn't have a dessert, and I only drank on one night of the week. But I wasn't even aware that this was sort of part of my aura. But he said to me, "Are you going to go for it on Thursday? You're going to have a blowout." And it's really weird how peer group pressure was trying to almost cajole me into making a mindset shift change that I didn't even know I was physically portraying.
It's funny that, because see, my buddies I play golf with, and because when I stopped drinking 3 years ago, and I stopped drinking for a number of reasons, but there's a number of them now have cut down their drinking massively. I've always got some goodies in my golf bag. So when we stop at the halfway house, and there's some chocolate, but there's always oat bars and there's always fruit, and and you know the kind of joke, and they'll say, "Well, what's the treats today?" You know, and it's just, whereas before it would have been a bottle of Lucozade, it would have been and we've got a really nice energy drink that I put in my water, and all my guys are using it. One of the guys messaged me this morning, I'm needing another 90-day product. Yeah, fine, no problem. I don't have to chase them for it.
Yeah.
And it's just getting that balance. And I say to people, this is about a lifestyle program. It's not about, I'm not ever going to be the thinnest guy in the world. But you know what? I'm very aware of, the sands of time are going one way.
Yeah.
So if I can do anything that makes me feel better about myself, and one of the biggest benefits, I'm sharper and more in tune on stage than I have ever been.
Amazing.
And I'm really grateful that I get paid to do what I do. Yeah. So again, that's going, you know what? This is the chosen. You've got a gift that you're able to monetize. And I never do it for money, but I get paid to do it, so I thoroughly enjoy that. So whatever I can do to prolong that, because there will be a time when I'm not able to do it, so the longer I can eke that out, that's just exactly where, that's where I am, because there will become a time where my autumn and my winter appears,
Well, I'm going to ask you in a minute to sort of share, your big three legacy statements as to how to have that enduring future. But it would be wrong of us not to go through this discussion without discussing the interplay between gut and brain, and why you've got a particular product that can enable that transference of communication from gut to brain work more effectively. Tell us why the gut is such an important organ within the ecosystem of our bodies.
It's the second brain, and if your gut is not in, you don't have the right bacteria in your gut, and your gut's not acting their way. I mean, your body's sometimes got about 1 kilo to 1.5 kilos of undigested food in the system. And if your body's not breaking that down, you're not giving your body the best chance. I mean, you wouldn't fill up your car with I drive a diesel car. I wouldn't put a bag of sand in it and then fill it up with diesel. And that's what we do with a human body. And when you look at the way that the gut works, it works absolutely. It is your second brain, and it connects to absolutely every part of your system. And it's amazing now that people are now looking at this. Right. Oh, that's, we've got a banner up that says nothing about synergy, but it's all about gut health, and it talks about it can help with, and we never prescribe. We're being very, very careful with that. We'll just say, look, it may help with X, Y, and Z. And I will only share my story, and I've got testimonials as well. But until somebody goes through that process, they then all of a sudden feel there's a cloud lifted from them, because they go, this is what I'm meant to be feeling like. And I always felt that I was kind of walking through treacle, because I was fat, I was overweight, I was just not fueling my body with the right fuel. Now I'm fueling my body with the nutrients it's requiring, the fuel that's going in, and the gut is, and every time I get a medical once a year, because I've got private healthcare, and the doctors always laugh at me, and the doctor's going, again, not long ago, and he went, the oxygenation level of your bloods are off the scale. And he went, you're the boy, it's on a L-arginine. And I went, yep. And he went, you ain't coming off of that, are you? And I went, nope. And it will become, I genuinely believe it will become the norm in 5-10 years' time, where We all are aware of this, you know. And for me, I don't feel as if, I mean, I find it hilarious. Like today, 35 different other businesses there, and we're the only company that are promoting, and I'm happy with that because we are picking up business, and you know. But the gut health, you get your gut sorted, you then are giving your body the best chance to get yourself, you know. And I can go into really technical, but there's loads of information on that. We've got loads of it's all based on science. It's all, you know, loads of eminent doctors working with us, and people now are starting to realise the importance of gut health and getting your boosting your immune system. And you know, and I think we're too clean as well. We're you know, you grew up on a farm and you were always coming in with dirty hands and you were rolling about playing football and stuff like that. Give your hands a quick washing, get on with your tea. We're too sterile now because our immune system's not been allowed to build up. So when somebody does get the cold or the flu, they're absolutely floored. So we need to go back to the olden ways with what we eat, what we're doing, you know, and getting getting the right fauna in your gut health is just absolutely crucial.
No, it is. But the thing is, a lot of people are now talking about it as an essential component of life. And I guess there's part of me that says, be wary about the latest marketing campaign or gimmick or product around the way to improve your gut, when somebody like your company has been doing it and preaching about it for a long time, and also has evidence, testimonials, and science-based data to back up the product that actually they're asking you to take.
Absolutely. And that's so crucial, because you see companies jumping in all the time. We've been at this, and my mother, who's 87, bless her, she said to me the other day, she goes, "You've been an overnight success in 8 years." You know, and I just said to her, "Well, I've not even scratched the scratch yet, Mum," you know, so a lot of work to be done yet.
Yeah, I can remember those days of COVID when everybody was suddenly piling in. We've got fogging, we've got this, we've got sanitization stuff. And actually, when you look back at what we were triggered to go and do, and then actually the reality of what we needed to do, was there were two different things, weren't they? Okay, so it's an amazing journey you've been on, and I really appreciate some of the takeaways you've given us here. But there would be probably three individual things, Stephen, that I think you could share with us to say, from this point going forwards, or anybody that's 10 years behind you or even 10 years ahead of you, what would be your three things to live a long, enduring, healthy and active life?
Well, number one, don't take for granted your health.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. Do whatever you need to do to give yourself the best chance, because there will be things that will happen in your life and people round about you that you will not expect. And if you don't have your health, you never value how much your health is worth and what it gives you until that's taken away from you. So that for me is the most important thing. So do a little bit more exercise. The lighter nights are getting in. Instead of sitting watching television, get out and get a walk. Look at the countryside. I mean, every morning I go out and I take a big deep breath and you know, I mean, I've got a little coffee shop at the harbour at Stonehaven, beautiful harbour there. And every morning I walk past and I look out and I go, yeah, this is great. You know, and so just be in the moment, but do not take your health for granted. So that's number one. Number two, find something you love doing. Do not take it. If you're in a job and you hate it, quit. Go and do something else. Find something you've got a passion for. Now, whether you're in a job, and I know some people will be in a job and they need to be in that job to make financial ends meet, but go and find something else that can fuel your passion. You know, you need to put yourself in a position where you love doing something. So whether it's volunteering or whether it's building a secondary income or whatever, it's whatever you want to do. Find something that gets your juices going. And my pal Bert would talk about this all the time. Too many people go to the grave with the song still in them. You know, I've started writing a book, and I don't know whether it's going to be a bestseller or I'm going to get to jail because there's going to be people upset with some of the stuff I write in there. But you know what? I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. And, you know, and I'm going, I wonder what else I can do. You know, and it's really engaging, and, you know, There's one of my mum's friends who sadly passed a couple of years ago, and she gave me a book, and it's an embossed leather-clad book, and it's "Damn I'm Good" by Stephen J. Ennis. And she handed it to me, and she went, "There's a book in you. Over to you." You know, and I've got 4 videos I listen to on YouTube every morning. Every morning, part of my routine. And Matthew McConaughey is in one of them, and he talks about be the author of your own book. Now go write it.
Yeah.
You know, so that's something else. So have a passion for. Now I've got a passion for my business, what I do, and I don't feel I'm working. I feel this is what I do. You know, and number 3 is surround yourself with a tribe. Surround yourself with people that support you 100%. Now, it may be 2 people, it may be 20. But, you know, I've got people that I could pick up the phone to right now and say, I'm in Inverness, I'm in trouble, and I'd have people that would come and help me like that. Because I would do the same for them. Now, too many people trying to be somebody to everybody. You may have a small group of people that are your inner circle. And I've shared with you, I've got a real challenge going on with my sister just now, who's sadly in her final weeks or months with a brain tumour. and I've been humbled by the support and the genuine outpouring of support and caring that I've had from people. And some people I wouldn't have expected it from. But you know what? That gives me a huge amount of comfort. And it will be a dark, dark time coming forward. But you know what? I'm lucky I've got that support. So those 3 things are, for me, the foundation of who I am and what I do. You know, and it gives me a huge foundation to go and build on. And I'm more excited by the future now than I've ever been. You know, and it's just being in the moment and being grateful. And I'm looking out just now. It's glorious sunshine here. I've got a drive back down from Inverness down to Glasgow because I'm going to meetings tomorrow in Glasgow. And I've got one of my colleagues sitting downstairs. He said, "How long will you be on your podcast?" And I went, "I don't know if we've got much to talk about, but you know, we've had an hour, and it's been, for me, I've thoroughly enjoyed sharing. You know, and for me, if somebody can get a little bit of inspiration out of what we've been talking about, we have made a difference. You know, and that for me is, and the sooner you talk about this all the time, leave a legacy. And that for me is what, you know, leave the world in a better place than when you come in. And if you can influence and help a few people make changes to better themselves and their family, you know what? You're not doing a bad job.
Do you know, I've had a lot of these conversations with Stephen, and a lot of the 3 takeaways are always very clever and very good. The thing I love about yours is that they're so good, but they're so simple and so practical. Take nothing for granted. Do something you love and surround yourself with a good tribe of people. And that's a really beautiful way to finish. I am looking forward to your book. I think you're going to go on a deep, reflective journey of self-awareness. And I think you're going to get as much value from your book writing it as the recipients will reading it.
Well, there was a signed copy coming to you, courtesy a Scotsman giving away a book for nothing. It's incredible. You've heard it here first.
Stephen J. Ennis, thank you so much for your insights. I really do appreciate it. And my best wishes to you, your family, and obviously your sister. And I really thank you for your insights today.
Chris, I really appreciate you taking time out. Thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.